Coming up on today's show, I want to run through some Falcons offseason winners and losers. Now that free agency, the draft, rookie minicamp, OTAs, mandatory minicamp are all in the books, today felt like a good day to run through some of the biggest winners and losers over the last few months. So, with that being said, we can jump into our first offseason winner, and it's kind of an obvious one. It's Kirk Cousins. Why? He made a boatload of money yet again. So, congrats to Kirk Cousins. Honestly, no sarcasm in that whatsoever. Signed a 4-year, $180 million contract. That's an average of $45 million a season and a guarantee of $100 million. Kirk Cousins has mastered making a lot of money. And that's a good thing to master in because these players can only play for so long. So, yeah, I'm not going to feel too bad for any guy that misses out on an extra 10 or 20 million because they're still making 100 times more than I will ever make. But still, that's cool for Kirk Cousins. $180 million, that's a shitload of money. Now, Kirk Cousins, as things currently stand, is on pace to be the 4th highest paid player in NFL history. So these are not career earnings to what they've made up to this point. This is if all these players play the rest of their contract, what they will finish making with. So Patrick Mahomes is on pace to be the highest paid player in NFL history if he plays the rest of his contract without changing or altering it whatsoever, coming in at little under $500 million. Matthew Stafford, $422 million. Aaron Rodgers, $418. Kirk Cousins, $411. Jared Goff, $401. I mean, Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff definitely kind of stick out compared to these other quarterbacks here. Super Bowl, MVP. Couple of playoff win combined. But you know what? Still, good for Kirk Cousins. You can even take it one step further. Look at the career earnings for just a couple of quarterbacks that I cherry-picked to, I think, really illustrate just how successful he has been as a player. Career earnings divided by the way, career earnings is like their entire career through the last day of their contract, not just up until this point, divided by the number of touchdowns they have thrown in the regular season. So far, Kirk Cousins has made $1.5 million for every single touchdown pass he has thrown. Jared Goff, coming in, he's quietly the biggest winner, actually. Everyone loves to use Kirk Cousins as an example of, talk about a guy who mastered free agency. Jared Goff is going to make $2.1 million for every single touchdown pass. That's more than Patrick Mahomes. Now, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, way behind these guys, and that's more of a product of just the way the NFL has grown as a business compared to when these guys were in their peak offseason money-making abilities. The league salary cap was just nowhere near where it is today, which means they did not get to cash in as much as these guys up here did. So Kirk Cousins definitely, made some waves in free agency when he signed that 4-year, $180 million contract at 35 years old. That was one of the biggest contracts given, period. And then for the age element, compare that to the likes of Matthew Stafford. He was 34 when he signed his contract for $20 million less. Aaron Rodgers reworked his deal with the Jets. He took a massive pay cut, to be honest. It was a 2-year, $75 million deal. Tom Brady always did right by the team instead of himself. When he went to the Bucs, it was on a 2-year, $50 million contract. So Kirk Cousins, he's obviously a winner for the Falcons this offseason. He was able to go find a spot where they could lock him down long-term, give him guaranteed money through 3 years of his 4-year contract. That really showed some commitment to him long-term. And when you're making that much money, how are you not a winner? Now, before we get on to our first loser of today's video, I just want to show some love to those of you that have sent in super thanks recently. We got a one from a few days ago, The World of Sean Wildcat, Ryan Price, Grand Limousine, Chris Tyler, The Big Shot Agenda. Thank you to all of you that sent in super thanks and super chats during our live shows. If you want to get a shout out on a future episode, the super thanks is the heart icon with the $sign in the middle. Send in whatever amount you'd like to show some support to the channel. We'll throw it on screen for everyone watching to see. But thank you to everyone who sends in their hard-earned money to support us here at Falcons Today. It really goes, not under the radar. It's very much appreciated. You guys aren't going to believe this, but our first loser is also Kirk Cousins. I know I just said a lot of nice things about Kirk Cousins. Everything I just said is true, but he's also kind of a loser this offseason because of the elephant of the offseason. The Atlanta Falcons selecting Michael Penix 8th overall. Now, I'm not going to rehash the selection and go down that rabbit hole once again, but we can acknowledge that Kirk Cousins was probably shocked by this, like we all were for the most part. And I'm not trying to reignite the debate of whether or not it was a good idea for Atlanta to draft Michael Penix. What's done is done. Are you going to invest or what, Dad? Like, that is behind us at this point. But I do think it's not a hot topic or it's not a hot take to say the Falcons signing Kirk Cousins to that monster contract while also having a top 10 draft pick. You just don't get those two things in the same Venn diagram very often. Like, really good, above average, elite, whatever you want to call it, quarterback play, because Kirk Cousins is a top-end quarterback in this league. You don't get that coupled with a top 10 draft pick very often, right? If you're picking top 10 in the draft, it's usually because you have quarterbacks like Desmond Ridder, Daniel Jones, right? All the Jets quarterbacks of the last decade. That's why they are always picking top 10. So for the Falcons to get a really good quarterback and then have a top 10 draft pick, you would think they use that top 10 draft pick to better the 2024 Falcons. Instead, they went to better the 2027 Falcons. And I'm not saying for sure that's a bad idea. We won't know until the 2027 Falcons get here if that was the right move or not. But there's no doubt that they could have used that draft pick to better their current team. Instead, they went to better the long term, which, hey, short term versus long term is always pros and cons to each one. But I'm sure Kirk Cousins would have loved to have seen that draft pick gone to like maybe Rome Odunze, a wide receiver for him to throw to, or an edge rusher to help protect a big lead he's built in the fourth quarter and not have it seen it slip away because the defense can't get a stop on 3rd and goal in the last seconds of the game because they don't have Dallas Turner on the field. I know that's oddly specific, but I'm sure if you ask Kirk Cousins, what position would you like to see Atlanta draft? And he ranked them all. Quarterback would be dead last. He probably would have seen like, there's some good punters in this draft before he said, let's go draft a quarterback. Now, before we look at our next winner from the offseason, we're continuing the summer of trivia here to keep you guys engaged during the dog days of the offseason. So I think everyone enjoyed the last edition of Name This Falcon, so let's run it back. Name This Falcon went to Abilene Christian, drafted by the Browns in 2014, played 2 seasons in Atlanta, scored 7 touchdowns in those 2 seasons, and he last played for the Chicago Bears. Let me know in the comment section below who this Falcon is. We will reveal the answer later on in today's episode. Second winner is Clark Phillips. There is no doubt that Clark Phillips was sitting on his couch for much of this offseason, kind of sweating out the free agency portion and the draft of the offseason. And to his shock, probably, they did not bring anyone really in to compete for the CB2 job. Like, sure, they signed Antonio Hamilton. They signed Kevin King. Those are some older veteran players. They did not make a huge investment that would signal we are signing this guy to start based on the number of dollars in his contract, or we use an early draft selection on this player to start. So Clark Phillips, as things currently stand, is slated to be this team's starting cornerback opposite of A.J. Terrell. And the former 4th-round pick out of Utah was someone I was super high on coming out of the draft due to his excellent ball skills with the Utes. Now, the size is a little bit of a question when it comes to his ability to make open field tackles, but so far the coaching staff has been very upbeat about Clark Phillips. And ultimately, when Atlanta does not sign a cornerback like Stephon Gilmore or draft a cornerback, period, the CB2 job was essentially gift wrap for Clark Phillips, right? He kind of reminds me of like Brian Drew from the movie Draft Day, where he is just relieved on his couch that they did not take Bo Callahan. Like, Clark Phillips, the entire draft is like, is this the next round going to be the round where they take a cornerback and I potentially lose the starting job to? Nope. The job is just waiting for you, Clark. Has he earned it? Well, not really. Like, he played some football at the end of last season, but I don't think anyone walked out of the 2023 season going, now that's a starting corner. We all could have walked out of the 2023 season like, that could be a starting corner. But the could would signal that there should be some competition brought in to figure out who the best guy is for the job. That never happened. So, Clark Phillips, congratulations. You're a starting cornerback in the NFL. That is awesome. You have definitely earned the ability to get to this stage of your career. Now we'll figure out if you are capable of holding down that position in the NFL. Now, if you had to pick one position to sign, who would it be? An edge rusher or a cornerback? I have seen one too many articles from like ESPN, Bleacher Report, all those spots that like say one move all 32 teams should make. And I already know before I click on it what the Falcons' one move should be, and it's sign one of these two. So let me know which one you think is a bigger position of need, edge or corner. Second loser, I'm going to go with Kaleb McGary. Not because he did anything wrong himself during the offseason. I don't think this offseason went super well for Kaleb McGary's play style. I'm sure he would love to have seen Arthur Smith come back for another season because Arthur Smith leans into Kaleb McGary's skill set. When you look at the 11 personnel usage over the last 2 years, and I know we've seen this graphic before, but for those of you just kind of tuning in, 11 personnel means 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. In short, how often they like to pass the football, right? That's kind of what 11 personnel gets to. How often are you passing the ball? And the Atlanta Falcons ranked 31st in a heavy pass personnel grouping. Rams, where the new coaching staff comes from, ranked first. Vikings, where Kirk Cousins comes from, ranked 13th. You can kind of start to see the writing on the wall here. We take it one step further just to make it extremely clear. How about just pure pass attempts from last year? The Falcons in pass attempts, they ranked 25th. The Vikings ranked 4th. The Rams ranked 14th. Kaleb McGary is not the best pass protecting tackle in football. His forte is run blocking, and that's what he was asked to do with Arthur Smith in charge. Now that Arthur Smith is gone and Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson are in town, they are going to air out the football a lot more. And Kaleb McGary last year was a much better run blocker than he was pass blocker. And now you start to wonder, is this going to be a fit for both parties? Not that Kaleb McGary can't be a starting right tackle in the NFL, but is he a good schematic fit for the direction the Falcons offense is headed under this new regime? Now, he signed a 3-year extension last year in free agency, and he'll finish the second year of that 3-year extension this season. But after 2024, when he goes into that final year of his contract, he'll have a $16.5 million cap hit, just $2 million in dead money, $14.5 million in cap savings. So it may be in everyone's best interest if there is a parting of ways after this year, if Kaleb McGary can't be a reliable pass blocker in an offense that wants to pass the football a lot. We're going to look at our third and final winner in just a second here. But before we do, that Falcons t-shirt combo is still on sale, 25% off at chatsports.com/Falcons combo. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video, but get yourself an awesome Falcons t-shirt set, not one, but 2 shirts, 25% off. Third and final winner, it's kind of like Clark Phillips. I'm just going to lump all the edge rushers together because them and Clark Phillips definitely had a party at some point this offseason going, holy shit, we still have our jobs. It's almost as if like when there's a changing from the Republican to the Democratic Party or vice versa, and they come in, they kind of gut everything out and they bring their personnel in, it's almost as if they forgot like the edge rushing department and the cornerback department when Raheem Morris and company stepped foot into the facility. Because Arnold Ebiketie, he was always kind of in a good spot to hold on to not just a roster spot, but a starting gig. However, Lorenzo Carter probably thought, this could be the end of my time with the Falcons, right? Surely they're going to go out and draft Dallas Turner or Leatu Latu or Jared Verse, and he'll take my job and I might get released. No, not the case. Not at all, actually. Lorenzo Carter very much still has a job, and he may still have a starting job with this team. I mean, the big winners here, Arnold Ebiketie, who was never really in jeopardy of losing a starting job or even a roster spot, but he still now remains the number 1 edge rusher on this team. Zach Harrison, he could have lost his starting gig if they brought back Calais Campbell. They opted not to, so he holds on to a starting job now. And then Lorenzo Carter, if they brought back Bud Dupree, he would have been relegated back to the bench again. Instead, all 3 of these guys hold on to starting roles because Atlanta, say it with me, has made 0 legitimate additions to the pass rushing group. I am sorry to James Smith-Williams. I am sorry to Bralen Trice for not giving you guys your roses and your flowers. But come on. This has been the worst pass rushing team in the National Football League in the entire team's existence. And look at the additions they made. James Smith-Williams. Who? Bradlee Anae. Who? Interior defensive lineman in round 2. A guy who had 7. Like, I'm not trying to diminish them all, but we need to have an honest conversation about how the Falcons, they skimped out on edge rushers. They just did, right? They didn't go sign a big name one in free agency. They didn't trade one. They didn't attack it in round 1 of the draft, or really even round 2, because Orhorhoro is not a pass rusher. He is a run-stopping defensive tackle. Let's get that straight right now. So, the rest of the edge rushers on this team looking around going, man, the fiercest competition they brought in with us was a 3rd-round draft pick. That's not a bad storm for some of these guys to weather. Because a lot of times these rookies, while they have great college highlights, there are some growing pains into the NFL, especially the round 2 versus 3 guys. Like round 1 guys, they're going round 1 because they can make the transition a lot quicker. They're pro ready. Round 3 guys, it's not that smooth sailing. And so maybe we'll see Bralen Trice get there in 2 or 3 years. But for this offseason, yeah, all the edge rushers definitely come out smiling going, I can't believe we still have jobs. Now, before we wrap up today's show, let's look at our trivia question again. Went to Abilene Christian, drafted by Cleveland in 2014, 2 years in Atlanta, 7 TDs, ended his career with the Chicago Bears. Drum roll, please. Brrr. Taylor Gabriel played for the Falcons from 2016 to 2017. That is our trivia question today. Let me know if you got it correct down below in the comments section. I always appreciate everyone tuning in. Turbo Man. Thank you guys for watching. If you have not subscribed, make sure you go ahead and do so. Also, like today's video. It's a great way to support the channel. Always appreciated. And we'll see you guys tomorrow when I'm just going to say it right now, the Tennessee Volunteers are national champions.